I'd like to welcome Aaron William Perry to our midst. It's my honor to do so, Aaron. Aaron and I have been corresponding for a couple of years, but I got to meet him last year at our climate change conference. Let us all give him a proper Loyola welcome. Thanks, Aaron.
Now, the book is not only for millennials. The book is also for parents, grandparents, and educators of millennials, which is a roundabout way of saying just about all of us. And what I hope to do, both in the book and in our discussion today, is help connect some dots for you all that leave you a bit more educated as to some of the issues, challenges, and opportunities we have in front of us, but more than anything, with a sense of hope and empowerment that at the end of the day, what we end up experiencing in the future is up to us, by and large. With sustainability, I find often that we end up talking about things that are very large in scale, very complex, difficult to understand, often end up being discussed in highly technical terms, as if we were only dealing with technical challenges. And I find that that causes a whole lot of us to disengage with this great question of sustainability that we all now confront by virtue of being alive on Earth presently. I'm going to plant a seed with you all that I believe our practices of thriving at the individual level are a big part of what's going to help us create a sustainable world. In other words, sustainability is very much an inside-out job. Perhaps the biggest risk we face is despair, or the belief that we have no significant power or agency to change all of this. The belief that our choices don't actually matter. Now, I believe very firmly, and it gives me great hope and joy, that we actually not only can change this, but are. It's underway. And we live in a time, perhaps one of the most precious and remarkable times our species has experienced on this planet, where together we get to choose to become excellent stewards of life on Earth. So I want to spend a little time with this word oikos, not the yogurt, this Greek word that means home, right? And it turns out it's the word from which we get eco, and from which we get economy and ecology. Many of us working in the sustainability realm see that we have a major conflict or disharmony between economy and ecology. Curiously, when we look at those words, they come from the same origin and mean something quite similar to one another. I'm not going to get into nomos and logos and all that, but oikos is about home. How we do economy is about home, and what we mean by ecology is about home. So I encourage you all to think about your oikos, from the globe all the way to your literal home, where you sleep at night. I also want to share that when we're talking about economy, economics, a lot of what gets almost treated as or discussed as if it were natural law is actually a whole set of constructs. It's a whole set of rules we've created as human beings and normalized. And in that, our conventional notion of economics suggests that you begin with some products from the earth. This is called primary production. You pull some fish from the sea, you get some timber from the forest, you get some ore from the mountains, and then you do something with it. You manufacture something, make something by hand, right? And that's our second step in the process. And then a bunch of folks sell it. Merchants sell and so forth. That's the third step in the process, right? And then finally, you get a number of folks who are the accountants, who are managing the information. This day and age, that a whole lot of us are attracted to careers in those fields: finance, computer science, metadata management, and so forth. And you get this sense that the value gets increased every step along the way. We have a couple of fundamental problems with this model though, and this is the model running our global economy right now. One is that it presumes you keep pulling from this natural capital without any problem, without any limits to that natural capital, right? What I will share with you as a suggestion is that perhaps now we think about there being a fifth node in the system that actually turns it from a linear model to a looped model. And many of us who are thinking about what we're going to do with our careers, what we're already doing with our careers perhaps, have an opportunity wherever we're called. We might be called to do graphics. We might be called to do database and computer work. We might be called to teach. Very important. We might be called to do, you name it. We might be called to work in agriculture and food. About 1 out of 10 of us, generally speaking, work in agriculture and food. Most of us in the food service world, right? Whatever we're doing, we can choose to land at this fifth node, which means our purpose and our work is all about taking care of everything going on in the rest of that system and cycle. Is about regeneration and stewardship. It's tremendous. Our work with soil heals us. And related to the word human, the word humility, the word humor, humanity, there's something in there for us. I believe in the next 10 years or so, 5, 10, we are going to see millions of us around the planet build soil in collaboration with microorganisms, and we are going to reverse climate change. That's what I believe is going to happen. And I believe it's going to be one of the coolest, biggest, most awesome parties our species has ever experienced on this planet. And guess what? It can happen in our lifetime. We get to be here for this. When we do the math, the amount of carbon we've released from fossil fuel burning from the beginning of the industrial era took us from about 280 parts per million to now we're over 400 parts per million. That's quite an increase by percent. That volume is roughly 243 billion tons of carbon. Now, there's a lot of carbon in the atmosphere, but guess what? There's a whole lot more carbon in the soil around the world. And to sequester that 243 billion tons of carbon equates to merely a 10% increase in soil carbon around the world. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of innovation. It's going to take a lot of cooperation, but it's doable. We can do this. Those of us who are charged, who are responding to the call, are, I think, going to see this as being a very significant part of our work in the coming years.